Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown.
I don't remember.
I mean, you gotta be grateful for the cooldown in between album bombs, right? Now, granted, calling this a cooldown, not the complete picture, because Drake album bombs tend to linger a little bit when they don't have real competition to push them fully out. But nevertheless, this is a week we can maybe hold on to, at least until Lil Nas X blasts in next week for whatever that might bring. Well, anyway, let's start off this grand reset with our top 10, where to my great exasperation, Stay by the Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber reclaim the number one. Now, this isn't surprising. It's on the path to dominate the radio, still strong in other channels. As of now, you would need an insane margin somewhere else in order to make up ground, and unfortunately, we kind of have that with Way Too Sexy by Drake featuring Future and Young Thug at number 2. Look, the streaming is frankly enormous, it's dominant on YouTube, and the radio run is in full gear. Charming, we're not getting rid of it. Then we got Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran at number 3, mostly courtesy of continued radio dominance and shockingly good sales, still, but it's holding its own. Right behind it is Knife Talk by Drake featuring 21 Savage and Project Pat, actually gaining a spot to number 4, mostly because the streaming remains really goddamn solid. Can this become the hit? Please? Unfortunately, what is also way more solid than it should be, it's Fancy Like by Walker Hayes, up to number 5, courtesy of an incredibly strong sales and streaming rebounding, where even now the radio's making a move. Folks, the Hot 100 is pretty damn unstable right now. This could easily get higher. But before we stare any deeper into that gross and defying hell, Industry Baby by Lil Nas X and Jack Harlow surged up to number 6 as the streaming and radio are on the rise. Expect to jump with this next week, and that's in contrast to Good For You by Olivia Rodrigo returning to number 7, facing some radio instability and softer impact in other channels. Similar case for Kiss Me More by Doja Cat and SZA at number 8, even more so for Levitating by Dua Lipa at number 9, even if the sales saw a minor rebound. But then to end things off, oh god, Girls Want Girls by Drake featuring Lil Baby at number 10. Frankly, it's got way more streaming than it should have, but it holds the spot. But this is where we get to the messiness of our losers and dropouts, where while Drake mostly held his spots, Kanye West nearly lost all of his, taking the flop of Motley Crue by Post Malone along with him. Then going into our losers, we saw Jail with Jay-Z hit 99, and Off the Grid with 504 and Playboy Cardi at 75. But outside of a small loss for We Didn't Have Much by Justin Moore at 96, the majority of our losers do come from Drake here, so starting from the bottom up, Fountains with Thames at 86, You Only Live Twice with Rick Ross and Lil Wayne at 83, Get Along Better with Ty Dolla $ign at 78, Yebba's Heartbreak with Yebba at 76, I Miss You Too with Kid Cudi at 72, 7am on the Bridal Path at 57, Race My Mind at 54, Pipe Down at 45, Poppy's Home at 41, Love All with Jay-Z at 35, In Too Deep with Future at 33, In the Bible with Lil Durk and Giveon at 29, TSU at 27, No Friends in the Industry at 22, and Champagne Poetry at 19. But of course, the big shift in weeks like this, they're the returns, they're the gains. And again, we didn't quite see as many as I was expecting, even as a full third of the Hot 100 recovered its position. In the former category, in our returns, mostly low down in the Hot 100, with In the Ghetto by J Balvin and Skrillex at 90, Come Through by Her and Chris Brown at 85, Cold Hard PNAU Remix by Elton John and Dua Lipa at 98, and Knowing You by Kenny Chesney at 100. But outside of the top 10 songs that I've already mentioned, and how Buy Dirt by Jordan Davis and Luke Bryan is continuing up to 51, let's first go through the songs that took the opportunity to pick up gains from holding steady last week. And that starts with My Boy by LV Shane at 74, Guy Alice by Capella Gray at 70, Woman by Doja Cat at 67, Love Again by Dua Lipa at 55, Waukesha by Moneybagg Yo at 50, A-OK by Ty Verdes at 46, Cold Beer Calling My Name by Jameson Rogers and Luke Combs at 43, Chasing After You by Ryan Hurd and Maren Morris at 39, Things a Man Oughta Know by Lainey Wilson at 38, Pipis by Farruko up to 34, and If I Didn't Love You by Jason Aldean and Carrie Underwood at 24. But as for the rest, I mean, Wild Side by Normani and Cardi B recovered to 59. Late at Night by Roddy Ricch at 49. Rumors by Lizzo and Cardi B at 44. Arcade by Duncan Lawrence at 42. Traitor by Olivia Rodrigo at 37. And Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic at 31. But then we saw the expected boost for Family Ties by Baby Keem and Kendrick Lamar thanks to the small album boost to 25. And then finishing things off, Take My Breath by The Weeknd at 23, Need to Know by Doja Cat at 21, Deja Vu by Olivia Rodrigo at 20, You Right by Doja Cat and The Weeknd at 18, Essence by Wizkid and Thames at 17, Heat Waves by Glass Animals at 15. Seriously, how is this still here? Montero, Call Me By Your Name by Lil Nas X at 13, and Save Your Tears by The Weeknd and Ariana Grande at number 12. But all this translates into a pretty slow week when it comes to our new arrivals. Thank God. And we're going to start off, unfortunately, with number 84, Lalisa by Lisa. So I'll admit, kind of weird to see the solo debut singles of K-pop idol groups get Hot 100 traction, but I guess I shouldn't be that surprised given the genre's greater penetration the past couple of years. I mean, it's a thing on the global charts, so if a member of Blackpink is gonna drop solo work, might as well get used to it. Well, if it sounds more like this, I think I might have to pass, dropping into let-in, clanking trap percussion where there's more actual bass than tune, and when we do get a melody, it's this squealing slice of dated electro-pop synth from the early 2010s as trying to go for a Middle Eastern-inspired melody of increasingly excruciating tones. And what's worse is that, to quote my colleague Todd in the Shadows, is that this is a I'm Back Bitch single, where it's trying to claim a hit by being louder and more obnoxious in its birthright than even her band. Seriously, the hook is her telling her audience to beg for affection. I think I might be able to actually get into this if the hook wasn't just bare repetition and plain annoyance, or if it had a decent tune, or if Lisa showcased any deeper personality beyond just playing to the Blackpink formula at its most migraine-inducing. So no, not good. Number 68, Lonely by DaBaby and Lil Wayne.
Lonely baby, a lonely, lonely baby, lonely, lonely baby, lonely baby, a lonely, lonely baby, a lonely, lonely baby.
Okay, I swear to God, if DaBaby is going to start playing to self-pity because of all the homophobic bullshit that he spouted off, which even considering his lack of artistic versatility in recent years was a record speed career implosion, I think I'm gonna break something. Because that is really what this is, where he still has to assert he's on top with plenty of money and fucking women and all the brand names, but he's not happy. He's a lonely baby. And yes, his older brother's suicide might be very valid context for some of that feeling, but his framing on the first verse of "the internet is afraid and scared of me," which reminds me of the reality of this mess. You're not fooling me here, DaBaby. And I have no idea where Lil Wayne is here at all. His verse is completely disconnected from anything beyond fucking and leaving some other girl lonely, which leads back into the mushy sample backing the hook and a lot of the stale groove that DaBaby routinely pulls in, and it stopped being interesting 10 times ago. If anything, it feels like a throwaway for an album rollout that I feel is just totally cratered. It's not structured like a crossover single, but it's just proving that we're out of reasons to keep DaBaby around. 'Cause it sucks. Number 64, Meet Me at Our Spot by The Anxiety, Willow, and Tyler Cole.
Maybe we can just go for a vibe. Hypnotized by the lights. Man, this must be the life.
Okay, how to explain this? So before Willow Smith did her misbegotten pop-punk thing this year, she put out a project with her boyfriend at the time, Tyler Cole, in 2020 called The Anxiety. I imagine it would have had more hype if it didn't drop in mid-March of 2020, but the reviews were mixed at best. It wound up kind of getting forgotten, and I doubt this would have even charted if it hadn't gotten some virality on TikTok. So I say, limited expectations. And if you saw my review of that Willow album and On the Pulse, I'm gonna repeat myself and say that if she wasn't signed to Rock Nation with her parents, this would have gone nowhere. Yes, it went viral on TikTok, but let's be real, not all virality on that platform is organically driven, and the ability to move the song afterwards, you need those connections. But also, this has a lot of the same issues I've had with Willow thus far. She's shoved midway back in the mix with a cluttered vocal line that doesn't flatter her throatier tones. The production is trying to sound bare bones, but is way too clean to capture a homespun vibe, even if I do think the bass line is solid as hell. And while Tyler Cole is an okay singer, he's not really all that distinctive either. I guess in terms of a young couple sneaking out for a late night vibe, I get how it could work, but the atmosphere feels really inconsistent. Not precisely terrible, not really good either. Number 63, Life Support by YoungBoy, Never Broke Again.
No more, they don't love me no more. They ain't feeling my song. Take my kids down the storm. They all gone. They done took my life again.
Okay, there's a part of me that listens to this and openly wonders if YoungBoy is okay, cause man, this feels messy. Part of it is the slapdash mumbling paranoia that's been all over his content the past couple of years, but the framing this time's a little different. It's darker, with the whirring trap percussion accenting a piano line I would expect Rod Wave to croon over at his most melancholic, and YoungBoy doesn't really sound all that good on it. Now, some of that is intentional. Existential emptiness, loneliness in the face of girls that he wants to keep around, but he also can't really satisfy because he's too high, reflecting on near-death experiences he's had and the loss of a grandparent. But there's also something about how he stumbles back to his traditional topics of shooting people and a lot of flexing and sex that sounds like he's either drunk or he's high going into the booth. It's the sort of sloppiness that just actively raises concerns, but also makes me not really want to revisit it. It's not that interesting. Even if this might be what you expect from him, he's done better. Number 53, Range Brothers by Baby Keem and Kendrick Lamar.
You cannot hide behind the shades, I see right through it. You ain't stand up on your word, then you's a fool. Then I fool.
Okay, no, it doesn't count as a meme song, even if Anthony Fantano did make a TikTok dance for it. Frankly, I'm a little surprised that Baby Keem didn't see more of a chart presence, if not a minor album bomb. I guess he's just not quite fully there yet culturally, so maybe just leverage the family connections for another crossover. And okay, yeah, I won't deny there are some mimetic moments, like Baby Keem wailing about how he needs a girlfriend before going into that awful falsetto, and then the song picks up some classical elements in the second part that have some critical bombast, and then Kendrick Lamar goes into his top of the morning goofiness that's offbeat in the final change-up, and you know, as weirdly funny as it is, I'm left thinking this should still be way better than it is. A big part of this is that we're anchored to Baby Keem, trying to go through a lot of pretty basic flexing, come-up bars, and while he's a pretty decent rapper, and I like the contrast off of Kendrick trying to warn him that wealth will not truly satisfy him all the way, I don't think I'm getting enough from Baby Keem to say more or feel more unique. A lot of the weirdness and more eccentric, interesting parts of the song are rooted in Kendrick, especially when the rumbling trap grooves don't really coalesce into stronger hooks, so it feels like a song that's stitched together from disparate parts that don't really pay off as a whole. So no, it's not bad, and I'll have a lot more to say about Baby Keem in the next episode of On the Pulse, but I don't know, like with Family Ties, not completely won over either. Both of these artists have done much better. Number 28, Have Mercy by Chloe.
I do. Why keep saucing like I do? Why keep causing like you do? All these eyes up in my jeans. You can't get up in between. You're trying to get a piece of me. I can teach you a couple things.
So I've been trying to keep my ear to the ground around Chloe and Halle, mostly because the sisters duo seems to be getting a lot of the promotional buzz you would expect from being proteges of Beyonce. But for as much as that last album seemed primed to really blow up on the charts in 2020, it didn't quite happen. And that feels a little odd when you place it alongside this solo debut single that has wildly outperformed the duo, mostly because of TikTok, but still. And yet, it also doesn't really surprise me. The very spare sample behind the leaden percussion reminds me a lot of the R&B that blew up inspired by the South in the early to mid-2000s. And I'd also skip the Beyonce comparisons here, because Chloe's vocals are softer, more pillowy, having all of that elegance but feeling less forceful overall, more reminiscent of Aaliyah or Ciara than Beyonce. Now granted, the issue I had with this style of production 15 to 20 years ago is that it felt more like the melodic skeleton of a song that could use more layers and tune to really go off and stick with me, especially when on a lyrical level, it's basically an ass-focused flex song. And while the lush vocal harmonies are doing a lot of work, I I wish there was a little bit more tune beyond the guttural synth fragment near the back throughout the back half of the song. Basically, while I know this will probably work and likely will be a hit, presuming Chloe doesn't have Normani's luck with spare retro-leaning R&B, I think for me to vibe more with this like the Forebears, I have to hear this go off in a club. It probably will, but given current circumstances, I'm more lukewarm, at least for now, but it is good. And finally, number 16, Shivers by Ed Sheeran.
Close up, give me the shivers. Oh baby, you wanna dance till the sunlight cracks. And when they say the party's over, then we'll bring it right back.
So I have no idea what's coming with this next Ed Sheeran album later in this year. Bad Habits was whatever, I don't hate it like a lot of folks seem to, but Visiting Hours was stunningly beautiful, and I heard Shivers was pretty great too, so I was looking forward to this, and, well, it is pretty damn good. But it might be one of those cases where I can tell Ed Sheeran is trying a little bit too hard to play to modern pop, and it's led his sound to be a little bit less interesting or idiosyncratic to him. Yeah, the plucky melody behind the shuffling groove and the acoustics, it's propulsive, even if the entire mix feels really overcompressed and doesn't let the horns breathe the way they should. But maybe it's just that hand clap that feels like it's a little bit too much, alongside the lyrics that are going for that dance floor love connection, and don't quite have the detail to rise something a little bit more distinctive that I would be drawn back to. Yeah, it's catchy, there's a good hook here, but if I want to compare this to, say, I don't know, Shape of You, the reason that I still like that song is because, as a sex song, it's grubby, it's lived in, it feels more real. This is the texture sanded away, and while I'm sure it'll clean up on pop radio, Ed Sheeran can be more interesting than this. It's still good, but at least for me, I'm not sure it's a great song. Just saying that. And that concludes a pretty rough week here. For the best, I was planning on giving it to Shivers by Ed Sheeran, but I think that's going to be the honorable mention, with Have Mercy by Chloe nabbing the best. Most because it does feel like it's better produced, and it's got more of a chance to really grow on me, and again, the vocal harmonies are really nice. But the worst here, oh yeah, Lonely by DaBaby and Lil Wayne, mostly because of the waste of the latter, and the ugly attitudes that creep through every noxious and increasingly bland reference point. With dishonorable mention going to Lalisa by Lisa, because it's a headache and a half, unsurprising. But next week, Lil Nas X is going to unleash his album bomb, so stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse.